Well, beautiful people, best damn nation. It is Wednesday, and you know what time it is. It is the best damn wrestling podcast. I am your humble host, Brian Renegade, and with me, I have the best damn crew. First of all, I have the chef of all chefs. We call him Senor Fuego. He is the one and only chef. Showtime was happening.
I'm good. How you guys doing today?
Oh man, blessed and highly favored, my brother, as we always say, man. It's good to have you on, chef. Oh man, next I have the grappler of grapples. He's your mama's favorite wrestler, and he can whoop your daddy ass, Mr. Everything, Victor Andrew.
What up, good people? What up, good people? I'm in the building, And of course, we got El Capitan, our leader of the show, Mr. Stargazer himself, Mr. Brian Renegade. What's going on there, brother?
Oh, what's happening, partner? What's happening? Looks like we got a special guest in the building, wiping his royal brow, as you see. Oh man, Mr. Everything, I'm gonna let you do the honors of introducing our esteemed guest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there is not enough words in the dictionary, the thesaurus, or the encyclopedia to be able to tell you everything about this man. Like this man, listen, he taught Abraham Lincoln how to wrestle.
Oh man.
They call him the ageist one for a reason. Okay. He's the showstopper, penny dropper, wheeling dealing, car stealing. He's your granddaddy's granddaddy favorite wrestler. Okay. He can moonwalk in some slippers. Okay, some house shoes, some chancletas. Okay, and he can pray for you in the middle of all that. He can pray for you all that. This is my dear brother, good friend, man, mentor, word of advice, pastor, good man. Listen, like I said, there's not enough words I can say about this man. This is, ladies and gentlemen, the ageless one, Caprice Coleman.
Oh man, it's an honor to be here. I appreciate the intro, man. I was wondering where you was going on there. I was like,
man, listen, I didn't know what else to say. I told you the encyclopedia just doesn't do you any justice. Ladies and gentlemen, real quick. So a little history, a little background. I first met Caprice through a mutual friend, through Ali Steele. You remember that day?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was on my way back from a seminar for Bret the Hitman Hart, where Chase Stevens invited me to, and Ali called me up and he said, "Hey man, where you at?" So I'm on my way home from Tennessee. He said, "Stop by the house. I got somebody I want you to meet." And I said, "All right." It was me and my good friend Sean. May you rest in peace. Love you, Sean. We started through, and Caprice was there, and they was moving around in the ring. And me and Caprice got in the ring, and before I realized who he was, I was in there trying to show him some stuff that I learned in Tennessee with the 5-5-5 drill. And he was like, "Look," I stepped in the ring. I grabbed him by the hand. I said, "Let me show you." He said, "Oh man, wait, hold on. Tell me what you're doing first before we do anything.
Get your hands off me.
Don't be grabbing me, okay?" I had all of them. That's what he did. And I just showed him a couple of things that I learned, and he knew exactly what it was. We got to move around in the ring, do a little bit of training, and I learned some stuff from work, the little mini match, and sat there and chopped it up. And we've been, man, I've been to brother's house. I've cut his hair. I've cut his son's hair. Hung out with his family, and anytime I needed advice on anything, I was being able to call Caprice. I've been doing some stuff that I didn't know Caprice was watching, and I would get a message from him like, "Hey man, good job." I'm like, "What I do?" What happened? But yeah, let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. Best Damn Wrestling Podcast.
Yeah, because y'all making my head too big.
Oh man.
Go ahead, Caprice.
I'm just saying it's an honor to be here, and I don't know what we're in for, but anytime I've been called, man, I'm gonna try to be there if I can be there. Really good brother, great dad, man.
Caprice.
Anytime you see somebody like that, you can't hear me. I'm muted.
Yeah, you sound like a robot. You're in the Matrix.
In the Matrix.
Gotta take that T-Pain off.
I'm on the Wi-Fi. You mess something technical up. Let's do the old school.
Say that again.
Nope, no better.
Oh man.
Let me have you log out and then come back in, and then
come back in.
Yeah, we'll try that. Oh man, well, beautiful people. While we fix these technical difficulties, man, we got a hell of an interview for you. Tell a little bit about Caprice's background, man, for people who are not too familiar with his body of work.
Man, listen, this man has been all over Ring of Honor. He was a tag team partner with Cedric Alexander when they were in Ring of Honor. They were the CNC Wrestling Factory. They've done a lot of stuff in Japan. Caprice has been all over in Africa, Qatar. He's Qatar champion. He was Wrestlecade champion, Ring of Honor tag team champion. He's worked for WWE. He still currently works for Ring of Honor. He's one of the best color commentators to ever grace the tables and the mic. He works alongside Ian Riccoboni. He's been with Omega. He's worked with Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Shane Helms. Like this man needs his flowers, bro. Like he really needs his flowers. He's one of those guys that does not get the credit that he so deserves. Because he's always so giving to others. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're in store for a very, very amazing interview to learn about this man and learn about his career, learn about his path in religion as a pastor, and just really get a chance to get to know Caprice Coleman. And if you haven't, man, go and check out some of the stuff that he's done in terms of wrestling. Go and look him up on YouTube and watch him on Ring of Honor. He's very entertaining, very, very entertaining. I don't think there's ever been a situation where I've been around Caprice and he did not do something that would entertain you. Like you could have a bad day, just be sitting around, and he would walk up and say something goofy or silly. I remember one day I was at a Wrestlecade and I was doing a promo for another company. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, anybody that's any wrestlers, young wrestlers, do not do that unless you get permission. That's not good business. But I was doing a promo, and Caprice happened to walk up behind me, and it was a wall behind me. So he's walking by the wall, and he's looking like he's looking for an exit or something. And I turn around, and in the middle of my promo, I was like, what is going on right now? And I was like, we got Caprice Coleman. And he was like, oh, hey, man, hey, what's going on? And I was like, you want to add something? And then he went into a whole promo right then and there. And then he challenged me to a match which we never, ever, ever have not gotten yet.
Ooh. Oh, man.
I came back in the right time.
Right time. He was about to talk cash junk about you, man. I was about to stop him. I was about to stop him.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Caprice Coleman. Caprice, please give us a quick rundown for those who are been living under a rock and don't know your body of work. Give us a rundown of what you've done and everything that you are.
I'm not good at that. I can say I've been part of the sport for the greater part of 25 years. Started out as a referee, trained under Matt and Jeff Hardy. Started with their promotion, New Frontier Wrestling Alliance, turned into Omega. By the time it got to Omega, I went from referee into wrestling, and was been wrestling with them until they got signed. Ended up going to NWA Wildside for some years. I got a lot of WWE work through that, TNA work, TNT and TNA and all, whatever their name were at the times. And then after that, had some Ring of Honor work, and then I went overseas for a while. Did some contract work for the military, and while I was overseas in Kuwait, did wrestling over there, and still connected with them. Came back to the States in 2009. Went back to NWA Wildside, which was NWA Anarchy, I think, at the time. And then Ring of Honor called, WWE called, TNA called, and they were all just trying to see where I was at. And I kind of got the vibe that they felt like I was older by that time. I was always really hot on the indies or in the magazines of next best thing type deal, but never got a contract. And Ring of Honor called me and they said they're getting ready to get bought out. They're getting ready to be bought by a big TV station and need some more wrestlers, and they definitely want to bring me aboard when they sign them. If I could hold up, because now like they're talking to me like I'm like 72 years old, bro. And and I was like, yes, of course I can, I could do it or whatever. And they said, we got this idea we want to do, And so they end up being sold to St. Clair Broadcast, and they bring me on. And this time I'm working the indies pretty hard. And when I got back in country, back from Kuwait, everybody was like, hey, what's your rate? And I tell them my rate, and it was like, oh, okay, well, we could get Cedric Alexander for so and so and so. I was like, okay, get Cedric Alexander. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I've heard this like 3 or 4 times, and I was like, who is Cedric Alex? What the world? Who is this guy? And so then I see him on the show, and so I called my brother, I said, I want to be on the show. And I ended up being on the show, and I think Cedric's like the first match, and he was really, really young at this time. And so I'm kind of shaking my hand, everybody seeing me, being nice to me in the back. Like, I'm really popular to wrestlers, but like the fans, I'm okay. But so after I made my rounds in the back, now I'm playing. But his match goes on, so I'm at the curtain, I'm watching this dude, and my brother, Sweet Dreams, he's watching this dude. And 30 seconds in, we're looking at each other like, this guy has it. Like, it's just some people, they just have it, you know what I mean? And so we introduced each other after that, and just kind of kept in contact, no big deal. And then we would end up at seminars together, and I would say, hey man, you stay at that side of the room, I stay at this side of the room, because they're gonna see us together. They're gonna try to make us the new Ebony Express or Harlem Heat or something. So you just stay in your lane, I stay in mine. And so it's kind of our joke. But then Ring of Honor, like when Ring of Honor does, hey, we got this idea. They say, we got this young guy that we think is really good, and we want to tag him up with like a mentor. And we think y'all will be a great tag team. I said, okay, what's his name? Cedric Alexander. I was like, all right, cool. We never worked together, wrestled or anything. And we get up to the show. I think the show was in Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. And that was like the first time we like planned a match or anything. And we went against, I think, like Future Shock, was Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. And we went against I can't think of their names now, but they're a pair of brothers, and they had like their gimmick was like their mama's boys. One of them wrestles right now. He's in WWE now.
Was it Julio De Niro?
No. One brother's like a mayor, and the other one's in WWE. He does like a teacher gimmick.
Chase, Andre Chase.
Yeah. What was they were anyway. Dang, I'm having a brain fart, but they were tremendous guys, great wrestlers or whatever. But we wrestled them like that was our first match, and the first night we had 2 matches, and they loved us, and like we didn't have a name or anything, and we were kind of in the ring like, like this is good. Like, you know what I mean? And so we got signed and been at Ring of Honor ever since. And we had a tag team run. He of course went off and went to WWE and all, proud of him and all. But I just stayed with Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor just never lied to me. Then the pandemic happened. Ring of Honor went out of business after the pandemic. They paid us through the pandemic. I don't even know if I'm telling the side of the story you want to hear. That's why I'm like, I'm not good at this. Tell me what you've done.
No, man, keep going. Keep going.
And so, and then everybody's contracts are running out or whatever. And then we did the final battle, and just knowing that we were told that it'd pick back up in like April or whatever, but it was kind of like we were taking a hiatus. And then at the end of April, I'm turning on TV, and my new boss is Tony Khan, and we didn't know it. You know, it was kind of like it was kind of like me watching TV. I'm finding out then we didn't know if he was gonna use Ring of Honor for the video archives, or if he was gonna just take a couple of guys and just kind of be done with it, or what. But by the grace of God, man, he took it and he has his heart into it, where he's really trying to like do something with it. And I was part of the first 10 people to be called back, and I've been there since. So I work for Ring of Honor under AEW now, and I just keep in touch with people, man, and I just try to show love, bro, because I've been on all aspects of wrestling, from refereeing to wrestling to managing to producing to talk show host to commentating, and that's kind of where I'm at now. So I'm literally like, they call me the Swiss Army knife of pro wrestling. Mr. Versatility. I'm not Mr. Everything. That's Mr. Everything right there. But yeah, that's just kind of been my thing, man. And God, I've just in my career, I've always said yes to opportunities, and it's blessed me to where I'm able to do a lot of things in the same sport.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about your transition from being a referee to a wrestler. Like what went through your mind when that opportunity was approached to you? Like, hey, would you like to actually wrestle rather than referee?
Word up, bro, for real. It was like that, because it was like I was in practice one day, and like I said, we all, Matt and Jeff, and we all practiced in what's his name? Cameron Grimes' yard. His dad's yard. He had the ring in his yard, and so that's where we trained at. And then when I first came, I came as a wrestler. I wanted to wrestle, but I was very small, and they had Shannon Moore, and Shannon Moore was their like underdog, and it was like, well, we can't have like two underdogs, at the same time or whatever. And so when they initially brought me in, it was like, well, you just referee. But then, like I said, I was with them for I don't know how long. I don't want to say a certain amount of time and be wrong, but I was just there at one practice, and Matt was like, hey, I think you're ready. And like when he said that, it was, I don't know what I did, but I want to say I was like, ready for what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what am I ready for? And he was like, hey, we got this show coming up in Southern Pines. And because I was like, bro, when I was in wrestling, I didn't care what I was doing. When I was refereeing, I was inviting people to the shows to watch me referee. Like, I didn't care. Like, I was part of the show, you know what I'm saying? And so that was kind of my thing. And I had an entrance and everything. I had a theme music for refereeing, bro. Like, I would come down the aisles and jump over the ropes, all that stuff. And I'm serious. And so then when I actually got to wrestle or whatever, I thought that was it's a big deal. It was a big deal for me.
Gotcha. And then during that time, was Matt and Jeff with WWE, or were they getting ready to start working for them? How does that all kind of intertwine?
They were doing like extra work for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So they were kind of those guys where at the time when you say, hey, I'm wrestling with Omega or whatever, those guys that get beat up on TV, those Hardy Boys, and but everybody knew who they were because they were on TV. But some people just thought like that's as far as they would go. But everybody that was around them was like, yo, these guys, like, you know what I'm saying? Or it. And so slowly but surely, people started really like falling in love with them because they were always who they are now. They always felt they were that way. You know what I'm saying? And so they would go places and they were in character, and Jeff is always wearing the stuff, you know, everywhere they go, they just got attention. You know what I mean? And so, and I think that's a big thing that got them signed as well, is because not only could they wrestle, but they stood out. They stood out everywhere they went. They had the muscles, they had the look, they had the wear, the confidence and all. And so, yeah, it was kind of like, you know, hindsight, it's like I'm looking at these guys like, yo, like, this is it. But I'm thinking Omega's it. You see what I'm saying? I'm thinking like Omega's going to be the next, like one day we're going to be competing with WCW, or you see what I'm saying? Something like that. But then they got picked up, and when they got picked up, Omega was done, but Shannon wasn't signed or anything. So that's when Shannon and Christian York and Shane Helms went to NWA Wildside, and that's when they wanted me to come, and I was supposed to come up there like one time with them, and the week before I was supposed to go, I broke my ankle. And when I broke my ankle, I was on the shelf for, I don't know, two months or something like that. And during the time that I was off, they started going to Tennessee, like Burt Prentice, Memphis, Tennessee wrestling, and they ended up going to WCW. They were gone, and then I ended up going to NWA Wildside there with another carload with Laz and another trainee. His name was Will Powers and Chemo, and this other guys just kind of trickled in type thing.
Oh man, let me ask you a question real quick. Do you remember when you fell in love with wrestling?
Yeah, man, I was probably 3 years old, bro, and I turned on the TV and I saw Dusty Rhodes, and I didn't know what pro wrestling was. I was just young, and I just saw him shooting a promo. I want to say it was talking about the devil in the boot or something. I just seen him, you know, talking, and he sounded like somebody I'm related to the way he was talking. And I was just kind of hooked on it, you know, and was young, and I didn't know they was pro wrestling. I think I was more hooked on, you know, when they was on the microphone talking, you know, doing the interviews or whatever like that. And then I started seeing the wrestling. To me, that was just the coolest thing ever. And growing all the way up 6, 7, 8 years old, I was probably 6 years old before I realized, oh, this comes on at certain times of the day, and you know what I'm saying, this and that, because I would just happen to catch it sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And so I wasn't old enough to say, oh, turn to wrestling or whatever. Like, or what I would say, they'd be like, it's not on right now. But then when I got old enough to realize, oh, this is what comes on, or you can buy like a little TV guide and it tells you when wrestling come on, or whatever. It got to the point where my mom took me to a yard sale, and I bought like a black and white TV and put it in my room, and I could watch all the wrestling, and the rest of my family could watch whatever they wanted to watch.
Oh man, you was a go-getter from an early age, brother.
Yeah, I was, man, bro. Let me tell you something. I was so into wrestling that when I would get on punishment, like my mom would, like when I get grounded, I would get grounded from wrestling. It wouldn't be you can't go outside, you can't do this or whatever like that. It was like you can't watch wrestling, and that was like no, that was like yeah, it was, bro. It was brought before the pastor because he's obsessed with this stuff, man. It was it was pretty bad.
Oh man,
trust me, I understand that, because that's what I do with my son now. He's suspended from wrestling. He's losing his mind. I think he's been suspended from wrestling for about a year now.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro. It's like once you get hooked, it's like some people it just hooks and some people it doesn't. And it's like some people can watch it and be like, oh, okay, whatever. And some people it's like, yo, I gotta know, I gotta do, I gotta see so and so, I gotta this. And it was like, and then man, I think I was like 14 years old, and we had cable, and they had this show that used to come on TBS called The Main Event, and it was WCW. And to me, it was all like good matches. You know what I'm saying? All the matches were like really good. And so but it came on at like 1:00, and church didn't get out to like sometimes 1:15.
Well, 3:00 sometimes.
Yeah. So I'd be in church and just looking at the clock and looking at the pastor, looking at the and the church was like a block away from the house. So I would run home and watch TV or whatever like that. And yeah, that's crazy to remember that type of stuff, man.
Oh man, Listen, I want to know who influenced your style and your character in the ring. I know when you first started off, your name was Ice, correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, Caprice Coleman, the coldest brother alive. You know what I'm saying? what influenced that character, man, and how did that develop over time to what you are now?
Man, Ice was honestly like a spinoff the West Side Story. I don't even know if it's like a musical called the West Side Story. It's like two gangs or whatever. And one of the gang members' name was Ice, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And then Mortal Kombat was out, you know, with Sub Zero and Scorpio and all that. And there was a wrestler in Omega called Sub Zero, Marty Garner. And so I was like, well, I can't be, I'm just Ice, you know, I'll be Ice or whatever. And like, I was calling myself Ice before I was wrestling. You know, I was like, well, I'm Ice. I'm, you know, this, and it just kind of stuck. And then I think they let me have it for a while just because I believed in it so much. And then it went from Ice, the coldest brother alive, to like the notorious ICE, which is like I can't excel. Yeah. And just this stuff to build on that. And then wrestling started changing to like more like people using their names and stuff. And so it went from that to Caprice Ice Coleman, and then like just Caprice Coleman. And then after that, you know, it was mostly just Caprice Coleman and whatever moniker would be attached to it at that time.
Oh man, that's awesome. You talked about growing up in the church, man. And you know, I think for me, I grew up in the church as well. Was that a difficult? Matter of fact, when did you get called to your ministry? And can you explain a little bit about what your ministry is now and how it plays a role in what you do?
I want to say I got called to preach when I was like 14 years old. I was raised in the church and all, and around 14, I just started having like these dreams that I was preaching and that I was supposed to preach, and then I had this one dream that this guy was like crossing the street, and everybody was like, "Hey, you're gonna get hit by a car, you know, stop, whatever." And he's kind of looking at them like, "What?" You know, you can tell he's getting ready to cross the street, and he was like, "People were like, he gonna stop, you're gonna get hit by a car," and he couldn't understand what they were saying. I was like, "Hey, stop, you're gonna get hit by a car." He was like, "Oh, thanks, man." It was like he understood out of everybody, he understood me,
Mm.
and they told me that like the interpretation of that is that, you know, not only was I going to preach, but I would have a message that anybody could understand.
Mhm.
And that's kind of been my ministry. And growing up in church and all, with mostly like I've done like youth pastor type stuff, and then I had contemporary service where I actually pastored a service for years, and then went overseas, worked under a pastor there, came back and to my home church and was like associate pastor for years. Then we moved to Charlotte, and I started working at the church here in the music department, and then of course ministry there, and then recently, like after the pandemic, you know, a lot of churches kind of stopped having church or whatever like that, and there was a church up the road that didn't have a pastor, and I talked to my pastor about it, and I was like, I just want to help them out so I would just be there. I wouldn't preach every Sunday. I would just be there, just kind of to be a constant. You know what I mean? And so start working, helping them out there. And then they asked me to put in my resume to pastor the church. And I did. I didn't get it. But like the guy that ended up being pastor, he asked me to be his, like, you know, his side. So I'm like the youth pastor of the church now, St. Paul's Community Missionary Baptist Church. And I've just always been in ministry, man, just helping people. The wrestling side has really helped me because I don't feel that wrestling, I mean, that church is just inside of church. You know what I mean? And I feel that wherever I go, I'm almost looked at like, here comes Caprice, you know, he's a preacher. You know what I mean? And so I get phone calls I get from different people all the time, and people prayer requests and all, to where it's just they hold me accountable for that type of stuff. So I gotta watch, you know, you really gotta watch how you live in front of people, because when people see you that way, they expect something, and not that they expect you to be perfect, but it's a standard. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I accept that, you know, because I've been in the same situation, and so I kind of get it, and I just am who I am, man. And I just accepted who I am, and I just walk with it.
Have you had situations where you had to pray for people in the locker room, or some people were looking for guidance, and they just couldn't, get on the right track? Can you speak to being a voice for some wrestlers in the locker rooms that you've been in?
Oh man, yeah, absolutely, man. I've definitely had a, a lot of times where I'm talking to somebody in the locker room or whatever, and we end up praying or something. And I don't make a big deal out of it. All of it's kind of like most of the time, honestly. Some people just want to be heard, and it's not like solve a problem or whatever like that. But like, if you could hear a person, and then also being able to let them know, like, okay, now I'm gonna be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
some people, some people want a pat on the back or whatever like that. But then sometimes, if you always broke or this always happens, sometimes you have to look in the mirror and be like, what am I doing to cause that? You know what I mean? So sometimes there's some practical answer to stuff, and some real life situations and all that. And I think I'm old enough to where people respect my wisdom as well. And so I'm just honest with people, man, and praying. And I've had bro, I could tell you something that happened to me last week that probably blow your mind, bro. It's like I got a phone call from a wrestling promoter that just kind of texts me every now and then. But somehow he tried to call me, and I couldn't answer at the time, and I called him back. And long story short, man, the dude had a demon in him, and like legit, I don't even know what you believe, bro, but like I thought I was gonna die last week, and the reason why is because I've seen demons before in people, but I've never as loud and as like pronounced as this one was. You know what I'm saying? And it's like the dude couldn't talk. He couldn't say Jesus. He couldn't say anything. We talking, and as soon as we started talking about religion, he said he felt like something was crushing his head and had their fingers in his ear. He felt like he was on fire. And this ain't somebody acting. This dude is like in his 60s, bro. And I known him for like 14 years. So this wasn't some dude trying to run game or something like that. You know what I mean? And so by the grace of God, man, like I stayed with him, and it ain't me. I was praying, to God, bro. Like that's all I knew. You know what I'm saying? Was to plead the blood of Jesus and what I was taught. I kept doing that, and then he went from not being able to say anything to being able to say Jesus Christ. This all in an hour, so this ain't like 5 minutes from me. I was like, I'm not hanging up this phone. Like, if I die, I'm just gonna be like this. But then like we got to a point where he could talk a little bit, and I told him, is anybody home? And he was like, his wife is home. And maybe 5 minutes later, you could hear his wife, and thank God his wife was a believer. And she's praying on the phone, like she's praying, and she's like, Lee, get out of him, Satan, you get out of him, you demon, you did, and we both praying together. And like a few minutes later, it left. And he was like, hey, who's this? And I was like, Caprice. Like, hey, Caprice. I'm like,
Wow.
bruh, like, you all right? Like, and he was like, what's going on? And then like slowly but surely, he was like, I am tired. You know what I'm saying? And he was like kind of recalling stuff. And his wife was like kind of freaking out. And I asked his wife, I said, what happened? She was like, well, she was asleep. And next thing she know, he came to the bedroom door and just fell. And he was like convulsing or whatever. And she was explaining like his eyes and all that stuff. And she heard me praying. So she started praying. And like the Bible says, with 2 or 3 are gathered, and after that, man, we talked some more, and I was able to lead him to Christ, and he definitely, said the name of Jesus Christ and accepted Jesus Christ as personal Savior, and all. And we was talking about the steps to do from then. And the next day, I called him. Like I didn't mess with him no more, but like later on that night, he sent me like, "Hey, just let you know, I love you. I really appreciate you staying with me or whatever like that." He said, "I'm going to bed." So all right, and the next day, that afternoon,